Hey everybody, Jeff from Rage Select here again, and I'm trying out another one of these just me talking into the microphone videos. This week, I want to talk about heat signature. Now, I don't know if that many people really watched when we played heat signature back on the Super Awesome Video Game Show, and then we did a second video with kind of tips and tricks, but this has been one of the games in 2017 that has really just captured and held my imagination like nothing else. It's a very, very simple game. It's for anybody who didn't watch our previous video, it's the follow-up game from the guy that did Gunpoint. And it's a very simple little game where basically you just break into spaceships and you'll have one of a couple different missions. You'll either have to steal an item, like in this mission, or you'll have to capture the ship, which you can do by knocking everybody out, pilot it somewhere, or assassinate somebody, or whatever. And like at its core, it's a really, really, really simple game, but I've played the hell out of it. I've played like 30 hours of it, and I have to uninstall it to keep me from playing it so that I can stay on track. In fact, even today, I installed it because I wanted to talk about it, and I was like, oh, I'll just play for a couple of minutes and get all my thoughts together, and that just ended up me playing for hours and hours. And what's actually really interesting about this is that this game has kept me way more interested than some of the huge AAA titles that came out this year. Specifically, I was thinking about how Mass Effect Andromeda didn't really I wasn't really super hooked by that game, and yet this top-down, very minimal graphics kind of game really stuck with me. Really has been a thing that I've enjoyed in a huge way. And it's eaten up a lot of my time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Like I said, I kind of thought about it a little bit this week. So this is going to kind of be a little bit of a stream of consciousness. If it's rambly, let me know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, it does work. I had some folks that said that that they like it better when I'm making fewer dick jokes and talking more, seriously about video games. And this is one that I feel like I have a thing to say about. So let me say a few things. So heat signature, I feel like it does a thing that I really like. In fact, thinking about this game this week has made me think a lot about the video games that I go back to time and time and time again, because I feel like we're living in an age where video games are just getting, they're bigger and bigger. They've got better and better graphics. They're more and more cinematic, and sometimes that makes for one of the greatest games that you've ever played in your entire life, and a thing that's really awesome. But I feel like sometimes it just doesn't do as much for me. And I think I know why. I think it really just comes down to one thing, and that is imagination. Now, I guess that's a little... I don't want that to seem like it's super kind of, hippy-dippy... man, you got to use your imagination if you want these games to be really good. But let me explain what I mean. So I was thinking about Mass Effect, and I was thinking about a few of the other games that came out this year, and I was thinking a lot about how those games seem like they're very big. They'll have a very large, lovingly rendered universe with a lot of detail. We're getting to a point where recording real life actors is a thing. Oh shit. And we're seeing video games look more and more and more like movies. But I've always contended, I've always had this kind of this attitude that video games are not movies. I think that because they're both visual mediums, a lot of people like to compare the two. They like to say, well, you watch movies and you stare at a screen when you play video games, so there must be very similar. But I've always contended that this just couldn't be further from the truth, because the fact that you interact with a video game makes it just entirely different than a movie. A movie is a 100% passive experience, and a video game, is a fully interactive experience. And no, sir. One of the things that I think you get with that interactive experience is the ability to really immerse yourself in a thing, and the ability to really kind of make your own story. Now, that's not true of every game, but I feel like you can make a case for why it's true of a lot of the games that we kind of consider to be, classics, or things that, you maybe go back to over and over and over again when other games that may look better or sound better or whatnot fall by the wayside. So let me talk about a thing that I've been thinking about with these big AAA. I don't want to just harp on. I don't think the games are inherently bad because they are made by a large studio, but I do feel like studios have started to think about games in a very kind of a checkbox oriented sort of way. Your game needs to have a big bombastic story. It needs to have a multiplayer component to keep people interested. If you go through the whole kind of games as service thing, it needs to have some loot boxes so that you can get some more money afterwards. I don't know, that's maybe a little bit cynical, but I feel like when I first started playing video games back in the bad old days, back in the NES, I mean, technically I guess it was back in like the Atari 2600 days, the graphics, they weren't very good, right? They were mostly kind of these just little representations of what the thing on the screen was. So, Mario didn't look like a person. He looked like a weird, just like a weird bunch of pixels. And that required us to, I feel like, kind of do a little work of our own to really get invested. Is that there was an obfuscation between, the thing that you were seeing on the screen and the thing that that it actually was. It's like, you remember how in the olden days, or I don't know, maybe folks don't remember this, but in the arcade days, you had your arcade game, but then on the side of the arcade cabinet, you had these just like really super lush painted depictions. I feel like this is the same on the front of box art of video games over the years. That art was showing you, was kind of a litmus test for what you were supposed to see in your, or not a litmus test, but like a guide, right? You couldn't make Link looked like later on. So in the instruction booklet, you showed the player what Link was supposed to look like. And then when the person saw that little glob of pixels on the screen, they would go, oh, okay, that's his little hat, and that's his nose and whatnot, and this is what he looks like by looking at the pictures in the manual or on the side of the arcade cabinet or what have you. But it required a little lifting on your part to kind of fill in the blanks. I feel like the same is true for a lot of video game history. Something like your PSX Final Fantasy, those characters. I remember when the graphics in the opening Final Fantasy VII cutscene, when I first saw them, and I was like, "Holy crap! This is the best looking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like nothing is ever going to look better than this. This is insane how good this looks. We finally did it. We did it, everybody. We reached the point where these graphics look exactly the way this is photorealistic." I mean, you know, photorealistic in comparison to the little blobs of pixels that we saw back in the olden days. But it was very, very impressive. But as time has gone on, I feel like the gap between what you see on the screen and what you see in your imagination has it's got smaller, obviously, because we can now render, you know, Ellen Page if we want to, or Josh Duhamel from, you know, say Call of Duty World War II. So you know, when you look at the screen, exactly what the character is supposed to look like. You know that this is Josh Duhamel, and he looks like Josh Duhamel, and he is Josh Duhamel. And in all honesty, I don't want it. There's going to be a part of this. I don't want this to seem like. I think that one of the problems that you get into when you start talking about things like this is that it starts to come across as like, you know, I don't want this to come off like, oh, well, you know, games don't have any imagination anymore. Everything looks like exactly what it's supposed to look like. You know, games are terrible. No, I don't think that. I think that good-looking games look good, and I think that that seeing that advancement, that it's great. However, I keep coming back to the idea that I'm still playing this game where your character looks like this. You know, there's no hair, there's no shaders, there's no light. I mean, hell, I can see the blurriness of the zoomed in pattern of the environment that I'm in. But there's something to this game that really, really speaks to me in a way that these, you know, some of these like completely photorealistic games don't. And let me just stop beating around the bush and kind of come out with it, is that this game is so simple, and there's so many different ways that you can play it, there's so many different things that you can do in it, that it lets me basically use my imagination to fill in the blanks and make my own story, and that makes the game feel more personal, or more like it's like what I'm doing is like the things that I'm doing in the game are coming from me and not just fulfilling. It's not like an achievement, right? Where the achievement is, you know, make sure to knock out or you know, complete the first boss fight. You know, exile Cromdar from the Seven Marshes of Flurblang or whatever. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out where the where's the hammer? Oh, there it is. Is it right there? Can I get him already? Yeah. So let me give you an example, and this is going to be this is probably gonna end up being a little bit silly, but that's all right, because sometimes the silliness it works to our advantage. So let me buy a concussion hammer here and equip it. So here we have Bullsbrook Rodriguez, and if we look at Bullsbrook Rodriguez, his personal mission is to bring in the Foundry officer who murdered my friend. So Bullsbrook Rodriguez takes his concussion hammer and he's going to hijack the Karen, which is an off-world security ship with a minimal amount. The client wasn't specific about the details. You know, it could be you could kill them all or just knock them out. We don't care either way. So here comes what's this? Bullsbrook is he's coming up, you know, from behind under the sensor net of off-world security. He docked, and after hacking the airlock, comes in. On his sensors, he registered 2 guards. One of them split off, and he took him down. From there, his friend caught a glimpse of him around the corner, and he went down too. I mean, you kind of get the idea of what I'm saying here, right? Is that this particular character, I mean, I could take a gun, and I could be like, backed into a corner. Bullsbrook had only one option: shoot this man in the back. Fortunately, no alarms were raised. Oh no, this guard got the drop on him. He took his concussion hammer, and before the guard could even react, he thought he had the drop on him, but he got hit with the concussion hammer. Like that sort of thing. I'm doing a really bad job. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I've recorded this video 2 or 3 times. So, but you can kind of see where you know, I have the opportunity to play this game the way I want to. You know, I had a grenade launcher earlier, and I could have gone in guns blazing. You can go in very quiet. And what I actually really like about this game is that because the loot is random, because you don't just have a shop. Well, you have a shop, but especially here in the early game, the things in it are somewhat limited. You know, you were kind of forced in down some specific roads. Like what I've got right now is this self-charging long-range Sidewinder, which is a teleporter. So, you know, if I come into this room and it's like, here comes this guard. Oh shit, he's got the drop on me. He's gonna fire. He fired wildly. But I teleported behind him and got the drop on him. You know, like that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know. When I was playing this game and I would go to sleep at night, I would close my eyes and kind of like think about some of the things that had happened in this game, you know, some of the scenarios that had happened in this game, and kind of imagine them in my head, you know, as what they would look like if they were in a movie or whatnot. And I think there's something really special about that. You know, let's go back to Mass Effect for a second, even though I don't want to just like harp on it. But I think that even though I really love the Mass Effect franchise, I don't really feel the need to play them all that often. It's not like, well, I could just pop on Mass Effect and, you know, play a little Mass Effect today. And I think that the reason for that is because, you know, you're somewhat limited. You're always Shepard, right? You're always Shepard, and you've got a few different ways that you can do things, but whoa, the concussion hammer will sometimes knock people directly. And you can actually use this. If you say this guy right here was armored, I could knock him out, even though this does not penetrate armor. And so this guy, in fact, I failed because this was supposed to be a bloodless mission, and I killed somebody. So, but I think about the games that I really, really, really like, the games that I come back to time and time again. And I think that one of the biggest things about those games, and it's not just this game, there's a few different games that kind of fall into this category, is that they let me kind of role play. They let me kind of do my own thing. And as the production on modern games gets super, super high, I sometimes feel like some of that freedom is taken away. And honestly, I feel like part of, you know, that's part of the reason why games like, say, Minecraft are so popular, is because they're more of a toolbox. You know, there's a game in there. There's a game that you can play. Let's buy some overpriced mystery crates here and see if we can get anything good. There's a game in there that you can play, and there's enough of it to kind of keep you interested, but there's a lot of it that works better as just a set of tools to kind of let you glitch back, time limit, bloodless. Hell yes, I'll do that. There's more of it that's just a toolbox that'll let you kind of do what you want to kind of make up your own story. By the same token, you know, I've talked at length before about how I don't like games that I do like games that let you make your own story, obviously, as this whole video is about. But then there's stuff like, say, Little Big Planet that I'm not super interested in. That's games that give you more of a toolkit. But I was thinking about games that kind of let you do your own thing, and I realized that a lot of the games that I consider to be my favorite games fall into that category. So take something like Dark Souls, for example. You still have to go in and kill, you know, you don't just do whatever you want to in Dark Souls. You still have to go in and you have to kill the bosses. But because your character is made by you, and because your character doesn't have really much of a voice by default, it means that you're kind of free to play your character however you feel like. If you want to make your character very sneaky, you can do that. If you want to equip a heavy sword and a shield, you can do that. If you want to do some kind of weird build, I've done several builds in Dark Souls where I just pretend to be the NPCs, right? Just what they call cosplay as, you know, like Solaire or you know, Patches or something like that, and then just kind of imagine, you know, my own little story in the world, in the Souls world. And I honestly feel like there's something about that that's kept that as a game fresher to me than something like, I don't know, like Skyrim, or no, not Skyrim, something like, I don't know, like Mass Effect is a good example. I'm trying to think. I don't want to just crap on Mass Effect this entire time, because I don't think that Mass Effect is a terrible game, but a lot of times when the story of a game feels really linear, then I feel like when I'm done, I'm done. But if it feels like I have more of an opportunity to kind of chart my own path and at least put what feels like my own specific stamp on it, those are the games that I come back to a lot. Like, I've talked at length about how much I like the new Hitman game, the Hitman from 2016. And like I said, someday I want to do a whole video that's just nothing but saying nice stuff about that game, because but I really want to sit down and spend, 12 hours, 18 hours, like creating an actual honest to God video. So wait, did I do my personal mission? Oh yeah, here's the money. Okay, what's my personal mission here? Because in Hitman, oh boy, see, so here, whew, these guys. Let's see, what else is the mission? Alarm response time 95, lots of guards. Okay, let's see what we can do. I mean, I don't know, probably fail this mission, but in Hitman, you can just walk up to the target and shoot them in the face if that's what you want to do. You could go in guns a-blazing. You can bring a machine gun and just run in and gun in and do what you feel however you want to. And the game, you get a lower score that way, but the game doesn't actually stop you from doing that. Oh, shit. Wow, they really... Yep, that's what happens when you try to go into a whole big thing, mess of guys, and fuck it up. I don't think I can do this in 70 seconds, but I'm going to give it the old college try. So I hope that makes a certain amount of sense. Let's see, I don't think there's any way for me to do this right now. I need a key cloner. I'm going to go do some random acts of piracy over here. Anyway, you can go plan Jeff in Hitman. You can go in and you can do the mission the way that the mission wants you to, or you can set an explosive trap and, kind of take your target unawares. There's so many things that you can do in that game that lets you, kind of, what? Oh, shit. Whoops. I didn't realize that was that particular ship was about to kill me. So, anyway, so I think that there's something to that. And I also think that there's something to a game that is as primitive as this, yet deep on the other side, right? Deep in mechanics. I was reading online about different ways that people have kind of gotten around some of the things that happen in this game. So, you've got this guy down here, and you can lure him in, and you can smack him with a wrench, and you've got this guy over here, and you can kind of you can lure him in. But as the game goes on and you get more and more, you get a larger and larger verb set, you get to a point where this is a slipstream, and the slipstream, I'm not really, the wrench is a pretty slow weapon, and I'm not, let's see, where's the pilot? Oh, he's down there. So like this room full of guys down here, I would never be able to kill all of them with just the regular wrench, but with the slipstream, I basically slow down time. And, in my head, that's just like, oh man, time ground to a crawl. And I ran in and slapped them all with my trusty wrench. Whoa. Oh, shit. The other thing that the slipstream will do is it gives you momentum when you run. and if you don't slow down before you stop, like, I will actually run right out that window. Well, actually, would not be a bad way to get out of here. So I've got 50 seconds until I would be captured. I got another slipstream here. Let's just use it on these two. Grab whatever this is. Long-range visitor. But yeah, I feel like this graphical style is primitive, and I mean, like, I'm not saying that as in a bad way, but it's simplistic enough to kind of let me map whatever I feel like over the top of it. And I really think that there's some value to that, because it's going to give you more time to focus on the mechanics as opposed to graphics. I mean, I think back to, who was it that said that, it was the EA CEO that was just like, well, players want a huge story with super good graphics. And I feel like a huge story with super good graphics is nice, but that if the core of that gameplay experience is just like, take Star Wars Battlefront 2's first person or single player campaign, for example. I didn't really like it all that much. And so, they spent all this time modeling Luke and the Death Star and all the stuff that you wanted to see in Star Wars more than anything. And then at the end of the day, it didn't really do anything because it was just kind of, the story wasn't all that great. Whereas here you've got a game with very little story. There's some story, but all that money that went into Star Wars Battlefront 2, all that time and effort, all those devs and the people at DICE, and I'm sure that the game isn't, I wouldn't consider the game like an abject failure or anything, but geez Louise, can you imagine if they just had a better gameplay loop, if they'd had a better kind of idea of what they wanted to do before they got started, what they could have done with the amount of money that they spent on that? I feel like the same is true of Mass Effect Andromeda. Like, they wanted to do something very specific when they made Mass Effect Andromeda, and as near as I could tell from the kind of from the postmortems that I've read, they were looking to kind of do a No Man's Sky, like, procedurally generated sort of thing, but it didn't really work. And then at the end of the day, they basically just had to pull back and do what they ended up doing. But if that amount of money, if the amount of freaking money that was spent on that was spent on something where it was less like kind of, oh shit, I'm about to lose this. So it's about time to do a little slipstreaming. Watch this. See ya. If that amount of money was spent on something that was, not as pretty but more interesting, my God, that's the thing that I think about from time to time that kind of galls me is that it's, I don't know, I guess it's like saying that like every movie out there has to be Guardians of the Galaxy, and I like Guardians of the Galaxy, but that amount of flash and effects and money spent on special effects and music and soundtracks and all that stuff, if at the end of the day, and I like Guardians, but it's like saying, that a movie audience wouldn't want to go see a movie that was a very that was very simple. Like, they wouldn't just want a movie with a good plot. It's got to have $6 billion worth of special effects in it, and I just don't feel like that's necessary in a lot of cases. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I think. I don't know. Maybe this video is boring. Maybe it's boring and dumb. And I don't need people to tell me, like, once upon a time, I asked somebody to stop calling me a cockbag all the time. They said, Jeff, I'm not going to stroke your ego. And I don't need anybody to stroke my ego. My ego's just fine. My ego's doing very well. But maybe let me know down in the comments what you think about this. I was thinking actually about, again, making something a little bit more produced, but I just kind of ran out of time and I wasn't able to, I don't have any real experience writing like a script, right? or doing takes. Like I did this one recording where I thought, where I was just kind of trying to improv lines, and then, you know, in the lines, if they worked or if they didn't work, I would re-say them, and it sounded really phony. I think that's probably just due to the fact that I've been just kind of ad hoc doing videos for a long time. So I honestly feel like I sound more natural, or more like myself, I guess, when I'm doing this, or when I'm just playing a game and talking at the same time. I don't know. Maybe it cuts. It gives me a thing where I can't fully concentrate. I have to keep half of my brain on the game. Oops. So I'm unable to. So I sound more natural because it's less of me. It's a way to get me not thinking about, you know, all up in my head. I was doing like, you know, 4 or 5 takes of the same line, like, oh, and if you look at this, then so I don't know. Let me know what you think. This would be kind of interesting because, you know, somebody out there, a few of the folks in the comments from last week's video, they were like, ooh, I like this. I wonder if Jeff's going to go back and revisit all the games he didn't like. I don't know about that. The time was kind of ripe for Fallout. So, you know, if there's some other games that kind of fall into that category of maybe warranting a replay to see if my thoughts on them have changed, but it's not the sort of thing I feel like I really want to do every week. Like, it feels like it would just get really, really tiring to do it every single week. In spite of that, also Fallout is a kind of a special case because I have very much a personal history with that game, a specific personal history with that game. So I had some very specific things to say about it, and I don't know that I would have as many things to say about other games. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Anyway, let me know down in the comments. You know, I'm really curious to know what you guys think about. Well, one, kind of about just this general overall format. Is this something that you'd like to hear me just talk for an hour about what I've been thinking about, like in the comments? The New Vegas video did really well, but it kind of had a clickbaity title, and, you know, anybody that knows me, anybody that's been around Rage Select for long enough had to just be kind of like, what? So I expect that this one will probably be significantly less popular. But you know what? Who knows? You know, maybe it's better. Maybe it's. So watch this. See, this guy's got a shield on, so I can't actually attack him, but if I hit him out the window, oh shit. Well, oh nope, okay, never mind. Shields don't work that way. Let me know in the comments what you think. You know, I've felt some amount of fatigue. You know, Assassin's Creed Origins, I feel like it's not a bad game, but boy, did it just not really hold my interest all that much. And that's a game where obviously Ubisoft spent a gajillion million dollars making that thing, and then the story just didn't really strike my fancy. Whereas I feel like in like in Assassin's Creed 2, that I was able to do the thing that I'm talking about of like setting up assassinations, especially in Brotherhood, where you could call in your little assassin bros, and you could just be kind of walking down the street and just like, oh no, what happened? You know, oh, those hooligans came from the rooftop. They came right out of that hay bale, officer. I saw them. I don't know anything about those rapscallions. So yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think. This is Heat Signature. I haven't exactly been playing this. I haven't exactly been playing the best Heat Signature of my life today. But trust me when I say that there's quite a bit that you can do in this game that that really lets you kind of play it the way that you want to. You know, if you if you find subverters, you know, you can, like, here's a thing. I'll end with this. So I've got to assassinate this guy, and you guys have seen me jump out of windows a few times. But one of the things that you can do if you want to is you can essentially knock the guy out, and then you can catch yourself while your target essentially asphyxiates in space. So There it goes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and oh, I caught him. I caught him on accident. Oh well. Anyway, that's Hate Signature, and I don't know what I'm going to title this video yet, but I don't know. Let me know what you think. What kind of games are the games that keep you most interested, and why? Is it stuff that you can play over and over again and it's different each time, or do you just really like the same story? I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. It's just something that I've been thinking about. So let me know for the 5th time. This is Rage Select. I'm Jeff. If somehow, like I said last week, if somehow you got here just looking at this video, we do a lot of Let's Plays and stuff. You should maybe go check it out. Anyway, the podcast should be coming up later today, and we'll see you tomorrow with another brand new Dojo video. Bye, everybody.